I think the Mets now are getting the energy from Juan Soto, which is none. I know he doesn't want to be a fucking Met. Does he have to make it that fucking obvious?
It felt like the whole weekend was too cool for school sort of deal. He forgot the games count.
Few moves have shaken the board quite like Juan Soto's decision to cross borough lines this past winter. The record-shattering 15-year, $765 million contract that lured him from the Bronx to Queens wasn't just a transaction. It was a seismic shift in New York baseball politics. But sometimes, the grass that looks greener from a distance reveals it isn't so green once you're standing on it. Today, we're diving deep into what might be the most compelling storyline of the 2025 MLB season. The spectacular meltdown of what was supposed to be baseball's most transformative signing, nearly 3 months into this supposed decade-and-a-half marriage between Juan Soto and the New York Mets. The honeymoon phase is officially over, and the results are nothing short of catastrophic. Is Juan Soto's historic contract already looking like the biggest swing and miss in baseball history? Well, before we get to the content, if you've been enjoying the videos I put out, please leave a like and subscribe. I do this full time, and your support on the channel really helps me to be able to continue to put out consistent content for all of you guys. Now that that's out of the way, let's get right into it. To understand the current catastrophe, we need to rewind to the crazy offseason that led us here. As the 2024 World Series concluded with the Yankees falling to the Dodgers, the biggest prize of the offseason sat in the Bronx, in Juan Soto. Fresh off of a stellar campaign where he slashed 288, 419, and 568 with 41 homers and third place MVP finish. He was about to become the most coveted free agent in baseball history. The Yankees faithful made their desires crystal clear with the re-signed Soto chants echoing through stadiums, even 500 miles away in Cleveland during the ALCS. Their beloved right fielder had just helped power them to their first World Series appearance since 2009, forming a devastating 1-2 punch with Aaron Judge that had pitchers waking up in cold sweats. Yankees owner Hal Steinbrenner publicly acknowledged the unique situation. "I think we'd like to see him here for the rest of his career. I don't think there's any doubt in that," he told the Yes Network in May 2024, even hinting at possibly breaking his usual no negotiation during season rule for a player of Soto's caliber. But across town, Mets owner Steve Cohen was quietly preparing the most aggressive play of his ownership tenure. The billionaire hedge fund manager had been working to make the Mets the envy of Major League Baseball since taking control of the franchise, desperately wanting to end both their 38-season World Series championship drought and their reputation as baseball's perpetual punchline. Getting Soto to the Mets wasn't smooth. At an early December meeting in Cohen's Boca Raton home, Soto expressed concerns about the Mets lineup lacking protection for him. Cohen reportedly grew so frustrated that he bluntly asked, "Why are we even having this meeting? It sounds like you're coming up with a lot of reasons why you don't want to come to our team." When Soto and his team left, Cohen turned to Mets GM David Stearns and said he's going back to the Yankees. But what changed everything was a masterfully produced video shown to Soto, depicting him in a Mets uniform at Citi Field, and most powerfully showing a bronze statue of him next to Tom Seaver outside the stadium. The underlying message was clear. With the Yankees, he'd be another star in their constellation of absolute stars. But with the Mets, he could change the arc of baseball history and be the face of their franchise. The Yankees' final offer reportedly topped out at 16 years, $760 million. But Cohen wouldn't be outbid, guaranteeing Soto an unprecedented $51 million per season, the largest average annual value in MLB history. On December 11th, 2024, Soto signed that mammoth 15-year, $765 million contract with the Mets, complete with full no-trade clause and a $75 million signing bonus and an opt-out after 5 years. But what has followed so far has been nothing short of a financial disaster. Fast forward to today, nearly 3 months into the 2025 season, and Soto's performance hasn't just failed to meet expectations, it's been borderline catastrophic for a player making $51 million annually. Through June 3rd of 2025, Soto is slashing just 233, 361, and 438 with a 348 WOBA and a 126 WRC+. That ranks 52nd in baseball among qualified qualified hitters. For context, these are numbers you'd expect from a solid middle of the order bat, not the highest paid player in North American history. But here's where the story takes an even more alarming turn. Since May 10th, after he had shown brief flashes during the beginning of the season, Soto has been particularly dreadful at the plate, with a 169, 305, 325 line and a 280 WOBA and a WRC plus of 80, which currently ranks 141st out of all qualified hitters. Let me repeat that. The highest paid player in baseball history is currently hitting worse than 140 qualified players in baseball. So why is this? Well, Soto's bat speed is down 2 miles per hour from last season. However, it is interesting to note he is still in the 74th percentile. This is not normal for a 26-year-old supposedly entering his prime. Interestingly enough, 3 other Mets are among the top 15 bat speed decliners as well: Francisco Lindor, Brandon Nimmo, and Mark Vientos. This suggests either a systemic organizational issue or a coaching philosophy that's neutering the team's offensive potential. However, the advanced metrics also suggest Soto has become a slightly more passive hitter at the plate. His chase percentage is up nearly 3%. For a player whose career was built on elite plate discipline paired with aggressive swings at good pitches, this isn't what fans would like to see. Now, the statistical decline could potentially be written off as an adjustment period, but what emerged during the Yankee series and beyond revealed character issues that have Mets fans questioning whether they signed the wrong man. The Subway Series is always a spectacle in New York, but the fact that the Mets had just signed the Yankees' prized possession the prior offseason made this one of the most important Subway Series of all time. The matchup between the two first-place teams would have been compelling enough, but add in Soto's return to Yankee Stadium wearing enemy colors, and you had the most anticipated meeting between the clubs since the 2000 World Series. The reception was about as warm as a swim in winter. 20 minutes before the first pitch of Game 1, when Soto emerged to stretch in center field, the bleacher creatures unleashed a thunderous chorus of boos and explicit-laden chants that would continue through the series. Juan Soto reverberated from the bleachers beyond the right field wall. They called him an a-hole in rhythmic unison. With his record contract in mind, they chanted "Soto greedy." The classic overrated chorus made an appearance. So did "You Misjudge." Soto, ever the showman, tried to play it cool. Before his first plate appearance, he removed his batting helmet, tipped it to the crowd, tapped his chest twice, and mouthed "thank you" with a smile. But the hostility clearly took its toll. Across the 3-game series, Soto went a horrible 1 for 10 with 4 walks and 3 strikeouts, failing to drive in a single run. Adding insult to injury, the Yankees won 2 of the 3 games, with former teammate Trent Grisham and new Yankee Paul Goldschmidt playing key roles in the victories. But what happened next revealed the real character of the man the Mets paid $765 million for. The first signs of trouble came during Sunday's series finale, an 8-2 Yankees victory. In the 8th inning, Soto hit a ground ball up the middle that Yankees second baseman DJ LeMahieu fielded on a sliding backhand. Soto, caught in between with a half swing, didn't hustle out of the box, allowing LeMahieu to throw him out from his knees by multiple steps. The visuals did not look good. As baseball analyst Chris Rose observed,
"It felt like the whole weekend was too cool for school, sort of deal. He forgot the games count."
But what raised even more eyebrows was what happened behind the scenes. Soto had been scheduled to be mic'd up for the nationally televised Sunday Night Baseball broadcast, but reportedly backed out at the last minute. Then, after the game, he refused to speak to reporters and simply walked out of the clubhouse. This despite allegedly telling his team that he would face the media. The Yankee Stadium drama could have been written off as an emotional return gone wrong. But the very next night in Boston, another hustle issue emerged that turned a single incident into a deeply concerning pattern. In the 6th inning of Monday night's game against the Red Sox at Fenway, Soto crushed a ball to left field that he clearly thought was a home run. Rather than running hard out of the box, he admired his shot while stepping backwards into foul ground, then slowly jogged towards first. When the ball hit the green monster and bounced back into play, Soto was caught flat-footed, making it only to first base when a hustling player might have reached second. After the game, Mets manager Carlos Mendoza couldn't ignore the issue any longer.
He thought he had it with the win and all that. And in this ballpark, or anywhere, but in particular in this one, with that wall right there, you got to get out of the box. So we'll discuss that.
When asked about these incidences, Soto's response was perhaps the most damaging part of it all.
I think being hustling very hard. If you see it today, you could tell.
Mendoza's subsequent comments revealed the depth of the organization's concern. He's human. He's 26. Man, he's going to be fine. He's Juan Soto. But then added tellingly, I think he's comfortable, but everything is new. Not only a new team, but just the new contract, the expectations. For a player making $51 million per year on a 15-year contract, this public disconnect with his manager about something as fundamental as hustle represents a crisis of leadership just months into his Mets tenure. But here's where the story takes an even more intriguing turn, and where the Mets' $765 million investment starts looking like a historically bad decision. Multiple reports have emerged suggesting that Soto's decision to sign with the Mets is one he's already regretting. According to supposed sources, Soto is actually upset in Queens, wishes he still had Aaron Judge hitting behind him, and isn't as happy right now as he was a year ago this time of year. If true, this adds crucial context to Soto's current attitude and performance. Is he playing with less joy because he's not where he truly wanted to be? Is the weight of a family-influenced decision creating internal conflict that's manifesting in his play, his effort, and his attitude toward the media? These whispers gained momentum after the Yankees series, when Soto seemed unusually affected by the hostile reception. For a player who's weathered tough environments throughout his career with his trademark smile and swagger, his down demeanor in the Bronx stood out dramatically. The comparisons to Francisco Lindor's difficult first season with the Mets have become impossible to ignore. But there's a crucial difference. Lindor never had hustle questions, and he never made $51 million per year. The timing is especially noteworthy when looking with how the Yankees have thrived in Soto's absence. What looked like a devastating loss in December now appears to be addition by subtraction. The Yankees currently lead all of baseball with a team WRC plus of 128 and are second in terms of WOBA. They're not just surviving without Soto, they're playing better baseball than they did with him. Trent Grisham, who the Padres insisted the Yankees take as a salary dump in the Soto trade, is absolutely raking with 13 home runs through June 3rd and has forced his way into the everyday lineup. The same player who served as an unremarkable fourth outfielder in 2024 is now close to a 1v1 replacement for Soto this year at a fraction of the cost. Paul Goldschmidt, signed with money the Yankees didn't spend on Soto, is batting .327 with excellent production while anchoring the heart of the lineup. And that's at just $12.5 million for 1 year. He's provided more value per dollar than any player in baseball. But perhaps the most damaging comparison is in the win column. The Yankees sit atop the AL East with the best record in their division, while the Mets, despite their strong start, are battling just to stay atop in the competitive NL East. The Yankees didn't just replace Soto, they used his departure to build a more balanced, deeper, and arguably better team. As a team, the Yankees lead the American League in home runs, slugging percentage, OPS, walks, and runs scored. They've hit nearly 30 more home runs than the Mets. The most terrifying question for Mets fans now becomes, what if this isn't just an adjustment period? What if this is who Juan Soto is when he's not motivated, not happy, and not in the right environment? At 26 years old, Soto should be entering his prime. Instead, he has the worst expected stats underperformance in baseball. While this suggests positive regression is coming, the underlying metrics paint a picture of a player who's simply going through a huge slump. Look at his baseball savant page. The numbers are all off of the chart. You could look at anything offensively. 95th percentile average exit velocity, 89th percentile barrel percentage, 95th percentile hard hit percentage, 100th percentile chase percentage. This is a player with one of the best under the hood numbers in MLB. His own teammate Brandon Nimmo tried to explain away the slump by saying, even though it's still New York, it's a new team, it's a new franchise, new fan base, everything. He has to do everything a little bit differently. It's not exactly the same as it was there. But adjustment period is becoming harder to sell when the adjustment includes fundamental questions about effort and attitude. The Mets do have the ability to void Soto's opt-out clause after the 2029 season by increasing his annual salary from $51 million to $55 million, which would raise the overall value of the contract to $805 million. But ask any Mets fan right now if they want to be tied to this player for 14 more years at even more money, and you might get a very different answer than you would have when they signed him in December. If Soto doesn't dramatically turn this around, the Mets will have spent nearly $750 million on a player whose best seasons came in a Yankee uniform. And there's even a small chance they'll have created a financial nightmare that will handicap their roster construction for the next decade and a half. Meanwhile, the Yankees used the money they didn't spend on Soto to build a more complete team that's currently outperforming their 2024 squad that featured Soto, all while saving hundreds of millions of dollars. 3 months into the Juan Soto era in Queens, some people believe the evidence is mounting that the Mets may have made the most expensive mistake in sports history. The argument is that the statistical decline, the effort questions, the attitude problems, and the underlying metrics all point to a player who has lost the very qualities that made him worth $765 million in the first place. I mean, when was the last time you saw Soto do the Soto shuffle? The Mets did not give him $765 million to be a very good hitter. They gave him that money to be Juan Soto. Right now, he's not even close to being that player. But let's be serious for a second. Juan Soto is just 26 years old, and we aren't even half a season into this massive contract. We have 14 and a half more seasons left until the deal is done, and probably around a year or two until we can safely determine whether or not this is a bad contract. Like I said, the under the hood numbers for Soto are still amazing. Plus, it's not like we haven't seen slumps like this before from Soto. Back in 2022, when the Nationals traded Juan Soto to the Padres, Soto hit just .236 and had an OPS under 800. But the very next season, he finished up with a nearly 1,000 OPS and a top 6 MVP finish. However, for the Yankees, every Soto strikeout, every lazy jog to first base, and every passive at-bat feels like vindication for their decision to let him walk. They're proving that sometimes the best move is the one you didn't make. For the Mets, they have to be positive. After all, this is a nearly $1 billion investment into the team. To give up on him now would be foolish. However, I understand why the front office and fans are getting impatient. If my team had signed a future first ballot Hall of Famer, I'd have high expectations too and expect him to run to first base. However, be patient. For now, it's too early to tell. If Soto ends up being one of the best hitters in the National League after the All-Star break, I wouldn't be surprised. In fact, given what advanced metrics are telling us, he's due to get hot at the plate more than ever before in his career. But I'm curious, what do you guys think? Is this just growing pains, or did the Mets just make the most expensive mistake in baseball history? And don't forget to like and subscribe for more hard-hitting baseball analysis. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.